Well, hello and welcome back to another video. I thought it was high time that we probably had another television on the channel. As you know, I love old TVs and trying to make them give a picture again, which for those that do this kind of thing, it's not always easy, as you know, and particularly when you're an amateur at it like me. But I kind of grew up with it. And it's a good few weeks ago now. I was given another set, and I'd already got two of these as it was, but I thought it would be nice to see if we could get this set going with the minimum of work again. So I have naturally, before I do anything else, I've checked the set over. I have changed a few capacitors. The set has, or luckily, been stored in a heated building all its life. The cabinet is a bit worse for wear, but we'll worry about that later. So I think it's, you know, it's not suffered through damp in any way, which is always a good thing, particularly with the line output transformer on these sets. So fingers crossed. I'm hoping that might be okay. You know, as I say, it has. I'm assured it has never been. It's always been basically stored in a, well, certainly for the last 40-50 years in a house with central heating, and has never suffered, and you know, with damp. And it's a relatively newish house as well, so it's not like an old cottage or been put out into a barn or a shed, or even in a loft, as a lot of these old televisions. The Pye, the one here, the Pye well, I get these numbers. Is it the FV1? I get all these numbers mixed up. But the Pye FV1 there had been in a roof, and that had got very, you know, had suffered a bit from the damp. But that is now giving me a very good picture. I did kind of conclude that with a video some weeks ago now. I'll move the camera around and we'll have a look on the bench anyway. I have got two televisions on here at the moment, and I'll explain about that when I move the camera around. So as I say, I've got two sets on at the moment. The furthest one away, I did a video about this, and this is the Murphy V150. This, in fact, was the first television that came into our village here in 1949, when Sutton Coldfield television transmitter in Birmingham opened up, and we were on the fringe, but just about on the capacities of reaching that with a good aerial. And particularly where this cottage was in the village, it was up nice and high on the valley side. The reason this is out the cabinet is the cabinet has gone away to be more professionally refinished, and it's been on kind of a bit of a soak test, and it's performing excellently well, I have to say. So I got a little bit sidetracked there, so I'm picking back up on the plot again, as I say. Yes, so the Murphy V150, which I've done a video about, and was the first television in our village, as I've explained, and the cabinet has gone away to be, you know, properly finished. I don't do a lot of cabinetry work. I find I used to, but it's time, and we thought it needed tidying up, really. It wasn't in bad condition at all, but it's gone away to be made a lot more presentable. Personally speaking, I like to keep the sets, if I just turn the camera around, where are we? There's the Pye. It's very dark in here. I'll keep it dark because I can't see the picture when the television's on. That's the Pye that I was working on. I did some videos, and you see that is totally unrestored cabinet. It's as it was found, but I like that. That's the kind of, you know, that never worries me. So coming back to these two on the bench, the reason the Murphy, it's on test because with the Queen's Platinum Jubilee this year, you know, the 70 years on the throne, our village has going to have a bit of display in is it the 2nd of June or round about that period, that weekend round about then, and we thought it would be nice to have the first television that was in the village, and that actually people went, this television was put into the old village school, and you know, you could go and watch the coronation on Coronation Day on this television. So we thought we would put it on display, and occasionally now and then switch it on, touching wood, it's a Murphy, he says, and it's a bit, you know, temperamental at times, this one, but it's working very well at the moment. We thought we'd put the coronation through it and people could have a look at it and just stand there a few minutes and have a look and say, oh look, that's the first television, and how, you know, and a lot of people have never seen black and white 405 live television, you know. And we come on to this set. This is the set that I've been talking about, and this is the Pye set that I was given well, it's more likely a couple of months ago now. This is the Pye B18T. I had 2 of these already, which both work and work very well. It has a Mullard tube. I think these are fascinating little televisions. What I like about these sets is the fact that, and I shall bring the camera in and show you a little bit closer, but it's packed full of the wonderful Mullard EF50 valves, and I mean, I could stand here all day and waffle on about the EF50 valve, and I'm not going to do that because I could bore everyone to death about that. But an incredible valve. I mean, it probably helped to some degree win us the Second World War because of radar. Because it was used in that. So obviously that was a huge help to us. There's no question about that. I think that has been, you know, confirmed all round by the professional people that know a heck of a lot more about this than I ever did or do. And it's interesting. The EF50 was basically conceived in the late 1930s, and strangely enough, Pye Television of Cambridge, as it's Pye Radio of Cambridge, C.O. Stanley was the head man there, head of the company in Cambridge, and I mean, he was very into new innovations and that kind of thing. Although to start with, Pye, funny enough, had poo-pooed television and thought it would never catch on, but they soon realised they'd made a mistake there, and you know, they caught back up in the race, you know, and started developing televisions in the 1930s, and they actually employed 2 guys by the name of John Edwards and Donald Jackson, and they came from the Standard Telephone and Cable Company to work for Pye. And I think basically it was those 2 guys with much aid from Mullard, which developed the EF50 valve. What Pye were trying to do was, there was always a big radio and television event at Olympia in August of every year, where companies would show their new wares, they'd show their, you know, new radio sets, and by you know, after 1936 there was televisions there as well, because we must remember that Britain was the first country to have a television service. So there was a number of, you know, always at the Radio Olympia, it became Radio and Television Exhibition at Olympia, and by the time we get to 1939, we only had 1 transmitter in London at Alexandra Palace. You've probably seen it if you've ever come into King's Cross on the train. You can still see that wonderful transmitter on the corner of Alexandra Palace there, and Pye and C.O. Stanley desperately wanted to build a television set that could pick pictures up, or receive a signal in Cambridge, which was well over 50 miles away from Alexandra Palace, which was some feat. And so these two guys, as I say, John Edwards and Donald Jackson, with much aid, I think, from Mullard, designed these EF50 valves basically for that reason, and they were put in the Pye 915 set, which could receive a signal and get a picture at Cambridge from Alexandra Palace on a television picture. Quite amazing, but obviously then the story deepens with the EF50s and how it gets into radar sets, and I'll put a link to an excellent site if you'd like to read more about this incredible valve and the story of it, and how we managed to, when it looked as though Holland was going to fall to the Germans in the Second World War, we managed to pack up the factory and basically bring it back to this country in lorries in a matter of days, and could then manufacture these valves in this country. Mullard couldn't produce enough of these, so they went to Philips, I believe, who in Eindhoven, who then produced them for Mullard and stamped them with Mullard in the late 30s, and that's how the story develops. But a tremendously useful valve, and as I say, in radar sets, helped us win us the war. Obviously, we now come to the end of the war, and in 1946 the BBC decided it was time to restart the television service again, and so obviously companies started to produce televisions, and this is one of Pye's. They did build one or two before this. This is one of their, but it's one of their quite early post-war sets, and of course there was huge amounts of EF50s still about, and they were still a damn good valve, and nothing had really at that point in time had superseded it, and so Pye used them in this actual B18T television set. And as I say, quite amazing really that these two guys developed this valve. I mean, I think I read an interesting story about the two guys, this John Edwards and Donald Jackson, who worked for Pye. By all accounts, Donald Jackson was a complete eccentric, as a lot of these people were that had the brain power to develop this kind of electronics, and he once, to the disbelief of his wife, apparently, he took all the internal doors off his house, and when she asked him why on earth had he done that, he said, "So I can move about the house quicker." And I thought, well, I think that's a wonderful story, isn't it? And these, and I think it, he kind of had the, I think he, had the title Mad Donald Jackson, but I don't think that's I think that's a bit, unfair. I think eccentric is a much better term for people like this, who without them, my generation might not be here. So anyway, that's quite enough of me waffling on. How far have I got with the Pye? Well, there is still quite a deal of work to do on it, but we'll switch it on and see what happens. This is the first time. I mean, I haven't switched it on prior. It's as I found it. I've blown the dust off it. It was thick with dust. I was told it was working well, late in its life. So that's always a good indication, and it looks like one or two things had been changed, capacitors and various other things, and I can see one or two newer valves that have been put in. So that's always an indication that, you know, a set was kept running late on in its life. So we will have a see and see what happens. It might go bang, it might not. I'm using the Aurora converter here, so that should theoretically give us, if we do get anything, and I'm not saying for one moment we are going to get anything, we should hopefully might see test card C come up in some shape or form, or some, even a raster. I'm just basically at this stage, I am putting a signal into the set, but it's just to see if we get, you know, anything on the screen. I haven't even tested I've got a tube tester, but I haven't even tested the tube on this one. Oh, way up. Well, look at that. So I don't know whether how well you'll see that. The picture is a bit elongated, but I mean, that is incredible, isn't it? As I have changed certain capacitors that I know go bad on these, and but it's quite incredible to get the picture up like that straight away. I wasn't expecting that at all. I think, you know, with a little bit of sort of jiggling about on the controls, which I'm not going to touch at the moment in time, it's just slightly, you know, as you can see, it's very pulled up, the picture there. Hopefully it's how you'll see that. But when I've got it looking a lot better, we will come back to it. I'll just see. So there we go, just a little bit more fiddling about, and I have got it slightly better. It's still not particularly good, but it's amazing to think that's the first switch on and we've got a picture like that. Like I say, I have got used to this set, and I know what capacitors to change, and normally you're quite lucky. The EF50s seem to be quite good, and the rest of the valves are obviously, you know, are holding up quite well in this set, and we shall see how it goes. And there we go. So that's a 1948 Pye B18T. It was a London only set, made for Alexandra Palace. It's still a little bit misshapen, but I'll forgive it that, and I'm sure we can work on that. And we have another working set. The tube seems to have quite a bit of life on it. A little bit of iron burn, what is called in the middle there, where it's got a bit of a darker colour, but I'm quite pleased with that anyway. So we'll switch off for now, and I could just show you the one, two, three, four, and I just thought I'd switch on and show you the Murphy working, which is just coming to life. There again, I haven't got any sound on this one, and it takes a few minutes for it to stabilize there, but you know, it's given me quite a good picture, considering there again it's got the Mazda. So there we go, the Murphy has come to life. Just to show you a picture again on that set, I'm really impressed with how this you know, this set has restored. I've done an awful lot of work on this set, you know, over a long period of time, and these Mazda old tubes haven't got a very good reputation, but I think this set belonged to a guy that used to do a little bit of radio and television repair, and I think he'd had a reconditioned tube put in this quite late on, hence why the tube is holding up so well. But it gives a very good picture. It could do with a little bit of tweaking still, probably. We're waiting for it to go back in the cabinet before we do the final. When the cabinet comes back, we shall probably just tweak the picture and see if we can get it, you know, as good as we can, focus wise, and, you know, the contrast and the brightness, and set it all up. I have got the I did invest, as always. I do say about, you know, it's important. I've got the Murphy instruction, the complete instruction book for this set, which is about 30 odd pages, and it's always worth getting as much info on a set as you can. So there we go, that's the Murphy V150 working very well still, and hopefully that's going to be on display, showing little excerpts of the coronation that was in 1953. As always, I hope you've found these of interest. It's fascinating looking at old televisions. I know we can't live in the past, but without the past, as I was always taught, we wouldn't have a future. So it's very nice to look back and see old technology and keep some of this alive. I used to take old televisions and record players and radios into primary schools, and obviously very well supervised. The children weren't left, you know, to touch this kind of thing, but they loved to see it and were fascinated, you know, to look back in, you know, years ago, what was, you know, what television was like. So as always, thanks for watching. Please do think about subscribing. It does help us smaller channels. As you know, I like to keep the content as diverse as possible, and I'm not going to stop that. I know YouTube say that I shouldn't do it like that, but I'm doing it like that. So as always, thank you for watching, and like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you in a future video. Until then, see if watch the spot. There we go. It doesn't do it, that one, does it? Sometimes they go to a little bright white spot, but